piloting the Curtis now, took off early in the morning, flew up the Hudson River, all the way past Battery Park, Governor's Island, past Ground Zero, and made a swing to the back downstream, circled the Statue of Liberty. We've got all of that from an onboard video camera. And then he continued to Old Bridge, New Jersey, gave it over to me when the winds picked up. And I struggled from probably 10 o'clock in the morning until almost 7:30 last night before I finally made it from Old Bridge, New Jersey down to here. That's the way these airplanes are.
Now that platform you landed on the Philadelphia, how big was that platform?
Well, it was a wooden ramp built over the aft two gun mounts on the USS Pennsylvania. It was 130 feet long by only 30 feet wide, but his landing area was restricted by some boards on each side to only about 12 feet. And so here's a civilian pilot flying out to a U.S. Navy ship on a jury-rigged flat top, never been out there before, and had never made an arrested landing, and on his first pass, he successfully trapped aboard USS Pennsylvania. When you stop and think about all the training that we as Navy pilots have to do nowadays to land aboard acres and acres of flight deck, my hat's off to that guy. It's something that I don't think I would have ever had the courage to do. But people were different back then. They were willing to take chances. I think nowadays we can't.
That's not much larger than the target that the Golden Knights had for us this morning out here.
That's correct. You're right. Yep. Now what Andrew's going to do, because of the winds, obviously we're very restricted with the winds. What Andrew plans on doing is finding a spot on one of these runways that's closest into the wind. It's easy for us because we only have about a 300 or 400 foot takeoff roll. So we can almost take off across one of these beautiful ex-Army Air Corps runways here. But he'll find a slot. With the winds as high as they are, there's a lot of turbulence. The aircraft is not very maneuverable, but he can stay at a very tight circle, not too tight, but enough that you'll have plenty of opportunity to get a photograph of him as you can, if you'll just focus on midfield.
How long did it take you to construct this aircraft?
Well, it took really, in order to get it as an exact replica of Eugene Ely's airplane, it took about 6 months of research. I went to the Curtis Museum in Hammondsport, New York several times. Also, the Navy's archivists were very helpful with the information. So after 6 months of research to make sure I had my story straight, then about 2.5 years of cutting wood, whittling wood, welding steel. And then we made our first test flight in October of last year. Since the first week in November, the airplane has been on the road constantly. It hadn't been back home yet to the Shenandoah. It'll make it back there after, we're going as far as Oshkosh westbound for the AirVenture 211. And then we're going to bring it back to the East Coast. We'll finally get her back in our hangar in the end of September of this year.
Now, you say bring it back, you're flying it to and from.
The goal is to fly this airplane about 300 hours to all of the 14 Centennial of Naval Aviation events that we're going to participate in. You can only fly at about 50 or 55 miles, and then you have to land and put another pilot in there. I've got a lot of flying time. I've never been in an airplane where it was pilot endurance limited. And I'll tell you, your shoulders are only good for about an hour of wrestling this airplane, and all you want to do is land somewhere. So then we put another pilot in, and we'll go fly. If the winds were normally, on a normal day with us transiting, if the winds were this high, we'd stay on the ground. But for the very short flights here, he'll be able to do it.
Here, does this taste bad to you? You fly for a while, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll let him do it. Yeah.
It's flying. Bob heads up there. It's looking good.
Now you'll see how it jumps around and it skitters kind of like a dragonfly, and that's truthfully, he is not doing that on purpose. He's controlling the airplane through turbulence.
Now what does aircraft weigh?
About 978 pounds, give or take. It's a double nickel airplane. I tell everybody it takes off at 55, it cruises at 55, and lands at 55. That's pretty true. Has a very small speed envelope for controllability.
Now you're flying this airplane airplane back in November and December on the East Coast?
Yes, sir.
How many clothes did you have on?
Everything we owned.
Yeah, I guess so.
Within 5 minutes, you had frostbite in your fingers. There was no glove. There were no gloves thick enough to keep your hands warm.
Well, at least you were sitting in front of the prop and we're getting that prop blast all the time. That's a big help.
Well, that's a good point. I tell everybody who wants to experience what we've done, go out on a mid-November day and get on the hood of your dad's car with nothing else and have him drive 55 miles an hour. That'll cure you of ever wanting to fly a Curtiss pusher.
The only wrong with the pusher, anything's in your pockets or the head goes through the prop. It leaves you.
That's true. Exactly. Andrew is his profession is an antique aircraft restorer in Virginia. I've been doing old airplanes, been a friend of his for years, and I would trust him and probably no other pilot other than myself to fly the Curtiss. That's his skill.
And Curtiss pusher, you can go ahead and start the inbound at this time.
I think Andrew would say that he doesn't trust me flying the pusher, but since I built it, I can wreck it maybe.
Now, Bob, we were talking this morning. I heard that somebody said there's a kit out to build these now. The steel parts are already laser cut and ready to buy.
Right, only the steel parts. There's no other kit, but there is a man who's done a computer program that'll cut the parts, the metal. Yes.
Now, you've substituted a lot of the old bamboo with metal, correct, on this aircraft?
Well,
construction and everything, and then come up with bamboo.
What I did was the bamboo comes from the exact same factory or importer that Glenn Curtiss used in 1910, 1911 to buy his bamboo, imported from the Tonkin Gulf in China. That company still exists. It's down in Lakewood, New Jersey. I drove over there, got a whole truckload of their bamboo, picked out the best, and I used it for this. Now, knowing that we're going to fly this airplane quite a bit, what I did was split the bamboo in half, put steel tubing inside that, and then we glued the bamboo halves back over it to make it look like the original.
You did a great job. It is beautiful.
So that's for the builders in the group. I highly recommend that.
Just for longevity, right?
Yes.
Of you.
Yes, that's right. In the old days, all Clark Curtiss did was bolt the tail and the nose section to just these bamboo outriggers you see, with a couple of bolts each. And there again, they had a lot more courage than I do. I think they'll probably make one last pass and then start trying to look for a place to land.
Yeah, his time's about up, isn't it? Hands start healing up, but they're shaking, holding that wheel.
It has a fairly modern engine. We tell everybody it's got a modern engine, although it's over 60 years old.
I was going to say it's a low 45, is it?
Yeah, it's a C-125.
125, all right.
Yeah. And the reason we put the engine on there was for reliability, so that we could fly to all these small cities en route while we're doing our demonstrations this year.
You do a lot of pre-planning on this to start going cross country. Checking out little airports where you
Sure do.
I'm going here, I'm going here, and I'm going here.
Yep. Mountains are a problem. So you have to plan around the gaps in the mountain ranges so that you can get through them.
Now, do you call ahead in the airport? Does you bring the airplane in there? You just surprise them and land?
Many times we just surprise them.
That's gonna shake the FBO up pretty good.
Yeah, it'll clear out the hangars quickly. The problem we have flying low down a highway is the people try to lean out of their windows, take pictures, and it's a traffic hazard, so we stay away from that.
You get a lawsuit in the mail, say, hey.
Yeah, I caused her pile up. No, we're doing all right, though. Now, one of the things, the interesting offshoots of building an airplane like this is that in the month of April, the U.S. Navy Test Pilot Center in Patuxent River, Maryland, invited the airplane there. They made Andrew and I test pilots for a week, and they inducted the airplane into their modern aircraft test profile center. And we spent a week flying flight test profiles for the flight test engineers at Patuxent River. When they finish, they'll have a program that is the flight profile of the oldest airplane ever tested. So we'll be interested in seeing what that looks like in September.
Well, they're going to test say it'll fly?
Well, that's what we're in now. They're either going to say
The computer says that's not possible.
That's right. Ground it immediately. That's what we're afraid of. Once again, this is the centennial of naval aviation this year. That airplane represents the first tailhook airplane, the beginning of naval aviation. In 1911, when that airplane, yeah, he's on final, it looks like, or setting up. When that airplane landed, people didn't have TVs, telephones, or anything. But yet, the courage of a few Navy men and Eugene Ely got that thing aboard a ship at a time when most people had never seen an airplane. And there he is, he's down. Now you notice how he landed going crossways on that big wide runway? That was to keep that thing straight into the wind for a safe landing. And that's what we'll do today and tomorrow. If the winds are too high, we won't fly tomorrow. I encourage you to attend any of the other 30, well, there's 29 left, 29 Centennial of Naval Aviation air shows. Check on the website and please go there, support the U.S. Navy. And I'll tell you what, if you see a Navy SEAL, ladies, give them a hug.
Now, Bob, where do you go from here? Where's your next event with this aircraft?
We're going to Reading,
Ready?
Pennsylvania. Yep.
Good for you. That's next weekend?
Yes.